At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Well, good morning to you all. This is looking at a time lapse from our Divine Sky Cam from yesterday. This was late yesterday morning into around midday, and it was pretty overcast for many of you in the valley to start off the day, and it was fairly persistent through the morning. But by around midday, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, this is what happened. It cleared out, and we got to see plenty of sunshine, and those temperatures really began to warm up a bit. But take a look at the image this morning from our Divine Sky Cam, a live shot. Same thing. We've got a lot of the clouds sticking around. We're going to get into the science behind all of this in our deeper dive forecast because it's kind of interesting. It's a little reminiscent of what we saw during the holidays around November, December. Remember that long stretch of that valley fog? Certainly not to the same extent, nowhere near to the same extent, but kind of reminiscent of that. This is looking out what's called Tom Head Lookout from the Alert Cameras PG&E camera here. This is looking from west eastward into the valley, and you can see those low clouds kind of hanging out. And we're going to get into a little bit more detail about what's going on there and why this is happening. Taking a look at our Krueger's Quickcast here for your Thursday, May 7th, starting off with our skeeter meter and some hints and some checklist, if you will, to kind of help keep those skeeters from growing and breeding, right? Here are some of the, and there are many, so we're going to kind of each day give you different ones, but common water holding sites, swimming pools and spas, that's pretty standard, right? Watering cans, lawn ornaments and furniture, and wheelbarrows. Again, keep checking in for some of those latest tips and tricks to kind of keep that standing water off of your property. Temperatures right now are in the mid to upper 50s for most of us in the valley. It's still about 61 degrees for Redding. Upper 30s in Altura. It's pretty chilly there at 39, but low 50s right now for you along the coast. All right, for this morning, here's what we got. Yeah, some of the clouds this morning in the valley. Now, not everyone's overcast in the valley. There are a few spots that have a little bit more sunshine, but more sunshine for many of the higher elevations. And of course, the low clouds for the coast, that marine layer kind of holding on. Taking a look at the ridge of high pressure that is building in over Northern California. You remember when we saw that fog in November, December of last year? It had a lot to do with that high pressure. Again, we'll go into that a little bit later. There you can see some of the fog along the coast trying to burn off. Now look at 8 o'clock this morning. If you look closely, you'll see some of the clouds that are kind of still hovering, at least at the north end of the valley. Winds picking up this mid-morning and afternoon. That should help scour out a little bit here. Also, higher angle of the sun will allow those clouds to evaporate a bit. But most likely still seeing a lot of the cloud cover along the coast here throughout the day, and some afternoon clouds developing in many of the higher elevations. So again, those winds picking up by around midday. You see how they're picking up? That's enough to really scour out any low clouds or fog that we may have. And then it looks like they may pick up a little bit, especially if in the eastern mountains, about 10, 20 miles per hour, a very good possibility coming in from the west, northwest there. All right, taking a look at your temperatures for your Thursday, mid-80s on average for the valley, 70s, but look how it's warmer in places like Weaverville. This is because, again, you're seeing the sunny skies this morning, and you're going to have more time to get that daytime heating, whereas some parts of the valley, where we're kind of still seeing those overcast skies for the first half of the day, that prevents us from warming up a whole lot. But eventually, once it does clear out, you start to warm out. Warm up, that is. Tonight, we're talking temperatures upper 50s in the valley, 40s for the higher elevations, and upper 40s tonight for the coast. Here's your 7-day forecast. Temperatures just slowly ticking upward. Staying below 90 through Friday. Low to mid 90s over the weekend. In fact, a little bit of a dip in our temperatures for Mother's Day. Then upper 90s, about 100 degrees. For your Monday, Tuesday, temperatures start to drop through next week. Mid 60s for the peak of the warming trend for the coast. Low 90s for inland, and mid 90s will be the peak of the warming trend for Trinity County. That's Monday, Tuesday, by the way. Siskiyou County, you're slowly warming up. Mid to upper 80s for Siskiyou and Modoc counties for the peak of the warming trend. And then for the eastern mountains, in particular Susanville, one of the warmer spots in the eastern mountains, about 90 degrees come Monday, Tuesday of next week. All right, take a look again at our Divine Sky Cam. This is a live look, and you can see just, again, the clouds kind of hanging out in the area, making for an overcast start to the day, much like yesterday. I do expect to see some of that clear out. Now, it looks like we're seeing less in the way of that cloud cover to the south out towards Lake Oroville. You can see that sun filtered through some of those high clouds. Main Street Chico, we can't really see the clouds here, but let's see if we can see any clouds coming in from Highway 99 at Neal Road. Looks like we do have some of the clouds, as you can see here, off in the distance. Looking at Crescent City Harbor District, no big surprises here. We've got that marine layer this morning and keeping things, fairly overcast. You can see some breaks in the clouds just north of Trinidad here in Elk Country. So we are seeing some breaks in those clouds here. So not everyone on the coast is completely full of clouds, right? Now look at this. You've even got a little bit of that morning dew and Bald Hill West looking down at Hoopa Valley. Man, it's socked in with that fog. And that's that marine layer kind of overspreading the mountains and into some of those mountain valleys. Soda Ridge, I mean, look at that. Got a lot of those low clouds hanging out there. But this is looking out at Scott Valley. You got clear skies for many parts of Siskiyou County. So it just depends on where you are here. Taking a look at this. Less and less snow. Barely a patch of snow out at Lassen Park. This is at 6,700 feet. This snow is melting fast. Now, before we get into our sponsor, which of course is Wind River Resort and Casino, we need to talk about another one of our sponsors, and that is Grange Co-op. They have got an awesome event going on this Saturday for mothers. Check it out. Hello everyone, I'm Mike Krueger. You're watching Weather NorCal, and this is Gardening with Grange Co-op. I've got Kathy from Grange Co-op right now, and we got a lot of flowers here. Of course, you would expect that from a nursery, right? But there's a really cool event going on for Mother's Day, right?
Yes.
So Saturday, this Saturday, what's going on?
It is paint a pot. So you bring your kids or whoever down. They get to paint the pot however they want. And then we provide the soil and the plants. So you can, like something like this, you can pick out the flower. We'll put it inside, plant it, and then they have a gift for mom. That's from 10 to 2. Out by the nursery at Grange Co-op this Saturday.
So it's Saturday, the day before Mother's Day.
Correct.
And this is a totally free event. You don't have to pay for the
Nope.
pot, you don't have to pay for the flower.
Nope.
They can just show up at the kiddos and you've got everything they need to paint
We have
these
the
pots.
paints, we have the brushes, we have the flowers, we have the pots, we have it all.
How cool is that? Well, thank you for offering this for the kiddos and of course for the mothers. Who doesn't love a free pot with a flower in it?
Right.
So come on out here this Saturday, the day before Mother's Day, from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. Paint a pot for mom. Pretty cool event, right? So be sure to check that out here. I'll have some reminders for you on social media in case you forget. But yeah, put that in your calendars and send the kiddos on over to Paint a Pot for Mom, and you get a free flower. And of course, they give you the I always want to call it dirt, but I know it's soil. That's what it's called, soil. It's dirt. It's good old-fashioned dirt. But yeah, so check it out. All right, I want to thank Wind River Resort and Casino. Say that 10 times fast or 5 times fast. Wind River Resort and Casino. Wind River Resort and Casino. All right, I did it. I want to thank them for their support. And let's take a look at this. We're going to go ahead and take a look at, I got so many tabs open. There it is. They got all kinds of great events going on over at Wind River Resort and Casino. Of course, this Sunday, we're talking about Mother's Day, right? You can paint that pot on Saturday. And then on Sunday, right, go over to Wind River Resort and Casino. Now, you're going to need to reserve those tickets. You can't just show up. There's a very good chance there won't be any seating for you. So you got to make sure that you reserve your tickets. You can purchase them online at windriver.com, and then click on the entertainment section. And they've got seating times for 9 a.m., 11:30 in the morning, and 2 p.m. So yeah, be sure to check that out. Wind River Resort and Casino. Let's go and take a look at our weather headlines. And yeah, we got a warming trend the rest of the week. Valley highs in the mid-90s by the weekend. Heat will peak early next week, especially I'd say around Tuesday, actually, with a cooling trend by the middle and latter part of the week. So let's get into that deeper dive, and I'm seeing you there, folks. I'm seeing you making comments. We'll get to you here after the deep dive. We've got a few things to talk about. Not a ton, but one of them being the clouds that we are seeing this morning for parts of the valley. So let's start with the temperatures first and foremost, right? We got about 61 degrees for Reading. Pretty mild, right? We're looking at mid-50s elsewhere, upper 50s for Chico, Norville. 39, pretty chilly this morning in El Turris, 41 degrees for Wairika, low 50s along the coast here. So we got a high pressure in place, but this doesn't tell the whole story, does it? Because we do have, and you can't see it, but there are some clouds in the north end of the valley. Reminiscent of what we saw in November, December, right? That long stretch of that fog. Not the same story, not the same event, and it's not going to be nearly as extensive as we did see, but it's kind of got some of the same characteristics. So let's start with, of course, that ridge of high pressure kind of being the main feature here, right? This is the Tom Head lookout. This is looking west This is west of the valley looking east into the valley, kind of around the same latitude of, say, Red Bluff, for example. So you can see all the clouds that we have kind of sucked in the valley here. A little bit, it's not really, the visibility isn't much lower. It's a little bit higher. But what's happened is this, and really the last few mornings, what happens is overnight, what happens? It cools off, right? That cooler air sinks down into the Sacramento Valley. And what you'll notice is sometimes the temperatures are warmer in the mountains than they are in the valley. And especially as we start the morning off, the sun comes up, we start already warming up many of the foothill and mountain locations, but we can't really warm up in the valley because we've got all the cloud cover. So a lot of times the mountains and the foothills get a bit of a head start in the daytime heating than the valley, and that's why it's a bit warmer in some spots for the mountains and foothills than the valley. Now, what's happening is that air cools off. We do still have some moisture left over in the atmosphere, and it's reaching what's known as the dew point. And we begin to see that fog or that stratus, those clouds, begin to develop. So that's essentially what's happening. The air is stagnant, but there are two things that we're going to be watching here. Number one, the angle of the sun is much higher now than it was in November and December, and that's why a lot of times the fog wouldn't burn off, because the angle of the sun was so low, it couldn't really penetrate through those clouds. But now that we've got the higher angle of the sun, this will help to evaporate and erode those clouds away. But on top of that, the winds, which we'll get into here in a second. 6 a.m., let's take it about 8 a.m. Again, you see some of the low clouds that we're seeing in the valley, but plenty of sunshine elsewhere. That's what I was talking about. And we also have, looks like some breaks in the clouds and the fog for you along the coast, even this morning. But then by midday, it should, for the most part, be sunny. Not completely. I'd say by around 12, 1, 2 o'clock, somewhere in that time frame, we're seeing less and less in the way of those clouds. And then you can see some of the clouds developing in the afternoon in the mountains. And we still have a bit of that marine layer for some of you along the coast. Then Thursday afternoon, there you can see some of the clouds again, fog along the coast, even in the inland valleys. And then it looks like for Friday, maybe some showers, thunderstorms off to our east, but still just some clouds over the mountains. And again, look at that, some breaks in that fog for some of you along the coast. Saturday, though, looks like that fog kind of comes back, even for many of those inland valleys. Plenty of sunshine for the mountains and plenty of sunshine for the valley as well. And that's when we start to see temperatures warm up, is over the weekend. Now, Sunday, we actually see a little bit of a weak disturbance kind of pushing through. This is going to allow our temperatures to drop slightly on Mother's Day. Good news, right? But we still have a lot of that fog along the coast here. But overall, it's staying dry. Now, remember, we talk about the fog and the higher angle of the sun. That's one factor that's going to help to erode those clouds away. But number two, look at the winds. By midday, they're really picking up. Not terribly strong, but enough to really just mix out any of that low cloud cover that we do have in the valley. So that should kind of help to push that out. And then, of course, we got those winds coming in from the west, moving eastward, a little over 20 miles per hour in the mountains. Now, since we're talking about the winds, let's take you through the rest of the week and into the weekend. A little bit of a breeze coming in from the northwest for the valley on Friday. Saturday, 10 to 15 miles per hour. Sunday, maybe a little bit stronger off to the east, but no big wind events. Bottom line is what we're looking at here. Warmer than normal temperatures is also what we're looking at. Even though we are going to see a dip in our temperatures by the middle and latter part of next week, still above normal. High pressure right here, that's what's building in. Now, by Saturday, Sunday, you'll notice the warmer temperatures. By Monday, Tuesday, even more so. It builds northward, but a little bit off to our east. But that's enough for us to see some upper 90s, possibly even some triple digits for the valley, especially by Tuesday. This cooler air will just slowly migrate eastward along with this up to the north, and kind of nudge that heat off to the east. And as a result, our temperatures will start to slowly drop for Wednesday, Thursday, into Friday. There you can see that peak, right? 97, 90, 100 degrees by Tuesday, slowly ticking downward. Now again, we're still above normal though, because even though we're dropping down in the mid to upper 80s by the end of next week into that next weekend, the normal high is about 80. So we'll still be above that normal high. By the way, I want to show you the rain because we're kind of coming off of some rain that we did recently see, and now we're going into a bit of a drier trend. So some of you may be wondering what's going on with the season. Well, as you may or may not know, the rainfall season for California starts October 1st and then ends the next year, September 30th or 31st, no, 30th. All right, so for the most part, the valley, as you can see here, Redding, Red Bluff, and Oroville, mostly over 100% of average for the season. That's good. What's not so good is look at the coast. Look at Eureka, Crescent City. So far, it hasn't been a very good rain season for you. 87% for Eureka, Crescent City, only 75% where we should be for this time of the year. Now for the mountains, now let me take that out here. For the mountains, there you can see 94% for Mount Shasta City, and for Alturas, you're at about 99%. So the mountains a little bit lower than the valley, but much higher than that along the coast. All right, so kind of interesting. And it's the snowpack that we talk about. The snowpack is really something we've been talking about even during the winter season. It's been low all season long for the most part, okay? We had a couple of good storms in there, a lot of snow, but it didn't last very long, did it? Look where we are for the season. Look at these numbers. Very low percentages. And you can see it's mainly down to the south here where we're seeing the bulk of that snow at this point. So that is key for our reservoirs, right? Because the rain helps our reservoirs, yes, totally, right? But we see that melting through the spring and into the early summer, and that helps to kind of maintain those reservoirs. But if we don't have much of a snowpack, that's not going to help. So as of right now, yeah, the lake levels are looking great, still over 100% for historical average, but that may change as we start getting into the summer months because we won't have much of that snow melt to kind of help maintain that a little bit here. Wetter than normal. This is the good part. I am seeing signs of some wet weather towards the middle and latter part of May. No details. I mean, I don't see anything all that significant as far as storms coming in, but I am seeing the potential for some wet weather by the middle and latter part of the month. We'll see. Climate Prediction Center is picking up on that a little bit here. The wave heights, they are actually starting to drop a bit. I did see a lot of activity this morning out on Crescent City Harbor District. So looks like conditions are pretty good there, especially with those low wave heights. Taking a look at your marine forecast, we do have some of the patchy morning fog. Otherwise, you have some pretty good conditions out there with those winds coming from the northwest at 5 to 10 knots. All right, so let's take a look at your neighborhood forecast sponsored by Dignity Health and Grange Co-op. You've got those temperatures mid to upper 80s. Now, again, we talk about the peak of the warming trend. That will be Monday, Tuesday. So there you can see the mid 90s Monday, Tuesday, even Wednesday. Now, of course, the coast, you're not going to be looking at much of that peak, but it'll be sometime around Monday as well, with temperatures in the mid to maybe even some upper 60s. But inland, you're going to be much warmer, probably somewhere in the low 90s by Monday and Tuesday. But of course, today, gorgeous, right? Temperatures low to mid 80s, 84 degrees for Wairika, Weed about 79, and 80 degrees for Mount Shasta City, mid to upper 80s by early next week. Modoc County, mid to upper 80s by early next week as well. You'll be around we'll call it 80 degrees, give or take, for your daytime highs today. And in the Eastern Mountains, we'll be looking at about 83 for Susanville, 80 in Janesville, Paradise about 77. Now, Susanville, your peak Monday, Tuesday will be around 90 before temperatures do start to drop by the middle of next week. Mid 80s for your daytime highs, 86 degrees for Hamilton City, 85 out in Corning, and 87 for Willows. There's your 7-day forecast for Chico. There's Saturday, Sunday. Actually not bad for the weekend. Yes, it's warming up. We're in the 90s. But it's going to be a bit hotter by the time we get to Monday, Tuesday of next week. 85 for Redding. It looks like about 86 degrees for Anderson, all the way down to Red Bluff, and 84 for Bella Vista. There's your 7-day forecast for Redding. Low 90s by Mother's Day, actually, but then we see temperatures spike again after that. 97 Monday, 100 degrees by Tuesday. So kind of interesting there. All right, so let's check in with some of you this morning, see who's checking in this morning. Got one of our regulars, and it is Jackie. There she is. Jackie Dixon saying good morning to everyone. She's also mentioning that it's very generous of the Grange Co-op. Yeah, I think it's really cool what they're doing here, that they're, paint, they give you a free flower pot, you paint it, they have all the paints, supplies there for the kiddos, and then they give you the soil, and you pick a flower to put in there to give for Mother's Day. So there you go. Happy Thursday, Mike. Weather is getting warmer and warmer by the day. Absolutely, Hannah. I could not agree with you more. It is getting warmer. It's kind of funny. I used the word hot in a social media post yesterday to describe the weather. Here's what's happening, and it is frustrating. How you doing, James and Mandy Chapel? Good morning, and bring on the heat. All right, so speaking of the heat, I gotta talk about this because it's getting more and more tense out there. We just can't get along. There's triggers, all of that, right? So I use the word hot to describe the weather because it's going to get hot. We're talking upper 90s, 100 degrees. I don't know about you, but I've lived here for over close to 30 years. 98 is hot, folks. I don't care any way you look at it. So am I over sensationalizing the heat by saying the word hot instead of warm? So I put the post, it's going to be hot. And then someone in the comments said, warm, not hot. Stop sensationalizing. What? So now the word hot is off limits? We can't say the word hot? Kind of like, I would equate it to that of like, I can't use atmospheric river because it's over sensationalizing. It's too much. So if I say the word hot, you're over sensationalizing because it's going to be 100 degrees. That's warm for us. I'm sorry, but there are people who have moved here. They haven't lived here for very long. If you're not used to 100 degrees and you just moved here, that's hot. Can you imagine? All right, so I could go on and on about that, but it's just frustrating that we're reaching this point in time where there's so many triggers, and people just get triggered by so many things. I too get triggered by things. Don't get me wrong, it happens to me too, but man, you just got to be careful with what you say. Anything. You can't say anything anymore. You really can't. I guess I sound like an old guy now, right? I can't say anything anymore. All right. Let's check in with some of you. Who else is out there this morning? Curtis Brown, he's saying good morning as well. Almost feels coastal again. I like it. Yeah. Of course, you take a look at this image here. This is probably what it looks like overhead. Let's get to that image. It's kind of an interesting shot. Let's see if it'll load up. There it is. So this is kind of looking over your area, Curtis, in the valley, looking from west to east into the valley. Yeah. Kind of interesting this morning. Kind of that nice, cool shot of air. Dave Hopkins saying inversion layer. Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what we got going on. It's cold in the valley. That colder air sinks into the valley, reaches what's known as the dew point temperature, and we start to see the clouds begin to develop, and that's essentially what's happening. Warmer as you head into the higher elevations. Why? Because, the colder air has sunk into the valley, and now as the sun comes out, it's warming things up for the foothills in the mountains, but not the valley, right? So yeah, good observation, David Hoffman. Jackie saying 90 is hot, especially for the coastal. Yeah, exactly right. Why worry about words? Use the word hot. No, I agree, and I'm going to use the word hot, just like I'm going to use the term atmospheric river. It's a term. All right. But yeah, I'll tell you, as someone who isn't from here and isn't used to the heat, it is so hot. Well, there you go. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So as we start getting into the hot season and we start seeing temperatures really start to increase, 90s, 100 degrees, over 100 degrees, you're going to start seeing, right, heat advisories, excessive heat warning. And what happens is, I'm just the messenger. What the National Weather Service is saying, hey, we have an excessive heat warning, and the people go, oh, This is just another hot day in the North State. Why are you telling us it's going to be an excessive heat warning? Right? So again, you can't win. You win some, you lose some. Then we got Michael saying, well, Mike, that's Reading in the summer, hot and miserable, having an awesome day. You're right. That's exactly right. We all pretty much can count on it being hot every summer. But that doesn't mean we can't like talk about it and be miserable about it and be unhappy about it, right? I mean, is it necessary to call someone out and say, it's not hot. This is not hot. This is 98 degrees isn't hot. 110 is. Well, yeah, both are hot. Again, I keep going. Good morning, Rachel. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Yes, good morning to you. Peace out. Good stuff. All of that. And I think before I get myself in any more trouble, we might want to just kind of wrap up the show. What do you say? We got some great cameras here. We're going to leave you with, as you know, we got a great new sky cam here at Weather NorCal that I'm very excited about. We're calling it the Divine Sky Cam. And why do I call it the Divine Sky Cam? Well, that's because it's on top of Divine Restaurant, the new Divine Restaurant, the Italian restaurant. And by the way, they got a great Sunday brunch going on over at Divine Restaurant. So if you're looking for something to do Mother's Day, of course, as you know, you've got the Wind River thing going on, right? You can go to their brunch. You got to reserve those tickets. But if those aren't available or you're looking for something else, then you've got Divine Restaurant. I'm sure many other places are going to have that too. But Divine Restaurant is also going to be doing a Sunday brunch, a Mother's Day brunch. So be sure to check that out. Should be very cool. All kinds of great opportunities for mom. Let's see here. A couple other people commenting here. Good morning. I've lived here my whole life, and it still would be nice if we could have gradually warm up instead of just going from 70s to 90s. Yeah, I mean, it does kind of feel sometimes it is overnight. And then Rachel Maxey is saying, it's hot. It's hot. It is. Don't say that to a grumpy old man, though, because he'll just tell you, that's not hot. This isn't hot. All right, enough. There's a look at our Divine Sky Cam, looking at the overcast skies this morning. They will eventually part ways to sunny skies, eventually by midday, early afternoon, so be on the lookout for that. Well, that's going to do it for us this morning. Thank you all so much for checking in this morning and chiming in. I love your comments. I love chatting with you and checking out your comments. So have a great morning, and we'll see you tomorrow morning for your Friday edition of Coffee with Krueger.